On with the inauguration of Donald Trump, and Professor Hassan Wagih is going to give us his input over this event of the month, or
yes,
the year, or
of the year.
6 years.
Actually, let us start with the good thing.
Right.
Is that we have seen yesterday that someone is surrendering himself to the will of the American people and leaving the White House very peacefully and with no violence, with no. Compare it with Gambia, with all due respect to our African brothers. But the guy in Gambia doesn't want to leave.
Exactly, that's a nice comparison.
So,
if you like to elaborate, please.
So this is one thing that really would get us to the good things when it comes to the tracks of good things and bad things. But when it comes to the discourse of Trump, it is a dividing discourse. It divided the United States.
Exactly.
And also it divided the world regarding the perception of leaders regarding his personality and his acts and his speeches and his assertive statements. Actually, the good side when he says that we are going to fight terrorism and wipe it off, etc. But when he comes to only Islamic terrorism, this is would put a question mark, because terrorism and the dogmatism and
radicalism,
it is diversified by all currents, and we are in the Islamic world would be very skeptical about his statements. We in Egypt, we are very clear, and we know who are the terrorists, and we are fighting against terrorism, and Egypt has already paid a lot for that. We have martyrs. We have seen what is happening in Sinai and other terrorist operations, and we have already confronted that, and we have clear-cut division who is doing what, and how could you be a peaceful, moderate Muslim rather than those who really gave Islam a very bad name, and they do not belong to Islam at all. And this is a point that we have to clarify to Trump and others. The word Islamic should be terminated, should be taken out. Those are people who really, and he himself knew that his previous administration had a hand in developing this brand of Islam, which does not belong at all to the true, authentic, peaceful values of Islam. So this is very important. This has to be clarified to him. And we should tell him in what way we are skeptical about this. We are fighting the terrorism organization with you and with other partners in the world, but let us define the problem well. Because there is a state terrorism, we don't want to get into that now. There are other groups and other affiliations, and even violence in the United States itself was conducted by so many people who are not Muslims, and tracking down the operations would clarify this issue in a very clear way. So this is about one point from his discourse. The other point is that he is protectionist. It is very clear that he is taking an economic and political protectionist stand. He wants to restore to the Americans their jobs, fighting unemployment, bringing back things that he feels international treaties has already caused the problems for the United States. He doesn't want the United States to open up to the world, and he wants to cave in back to reform what he think needs reform when it comes to aviation fleet, streets, bridges. He said something like that along these lines, and also factories. And he wants to return those who really became unemployed to be active employers again, serving the economic, the American economy in a far more better way. So this is something about protectionism. But when we say protectionism and the caving in, and he doesn't want the policy of Obama of spreading the American army.
To echo what you have just mentioned, sir, let me tell you about 2 of the 10 promises Donald Trump promised to execute or to fulfill by the very first day in office. Announced plans to renegotiate the North American Free Trade Agreement with Canada and
NAFTA.
Mexico or withdraw from the deal. And also regarding another agreement, formally withdraw from the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Whenever it comes to America, we are speaking about the biggest country in the world, and to keep itself indoors, if I can use this term, this is not at all the way America was behaving in its history. So, can I say that America is entering a new era? And if this is going to be for the best interest of Americans or no, Americans will agree that this is going to be America without those deals?
I'll tell you, beyond the Trump, there is a phenomena in the world. There is wild globalism, where a country like the United States were opening up with wild capitalism. And when we have the third way of Giddens, we came to study in political science the new waves of regionalism. The world is, many countries in the world is not interested anymore in this global capitalism, which led to the financial crisis, and it would lead to other crises. So there is a tendency beyond the Trump to regionalism back again. If we are in the Arab world here, we are opening up with China or wherever, with the United States, with other countries. But again, the basic thing for our economy to be good is to have good relations with the borders countries, Libya, Sudan, Saudi Arabia, etc. We have to make a regional system. And this is why we feel sorry about what's happening to the Arab system. The Arab system has to be consolidated, and Libya should be restored, and Syria should be restored, because it help us to for a new wave of regionalism that would enhance our stance when it comes to mild globalism, not wild globalism. And I think Trump statements regarding this point could be analyzed along this regionalism, globalism continuum.
In one word, sir, is it temporary?
Actually, he wants to mobilize the forces of America again, to reform and to the point is that when I said about his protectionist stance and he's caving in back, but he, in his speech and in his discourse, he said that we can use force. Also, this does not exclude us from using force, but where? Only in the Middle East. How is he going to use force? Would it be rational? Would it be on the account of Arab peoples, or it would be in the right direction, fighting terrorism with us, making a strategy that is really agreed upon between all the parties? Also, the problem with his policy when he mentioned something regarding moving the capital.
I was going to come into that particular thing. Of course, we cannot elaborate over his policies until we take a few a few months in his tenure to be able to really take a real comprehensive look, and objective also, not subjective. But at the same time, announcing that he is going to move the embassy to Jerusalem, the first thing that he does, make it forth prior to anything, even before stepping inside the Oval House.
Yeah, I think this,
what does that signify?
It signifies miscalculation and the double standard, and he is talking about justice. So this is not a just thing for the Palestinian and for the Palestinian problem. Yeah, what?
Or does it really reflect his policies? Something, it's slip of a tongue that reflects his real policies, identity?
As you have said, we have not to rely on what he already said before becoming a president. Let us wait and see, ki sira sira. So this is a slogan I would particularly raise with skepticism till I understand the real moves and the nature of the moves, and whether he will be able to fulfill what he said in terms of promises to the American people or to the world when it comes to real fighting and real uprooting of terrorism at large with all its forms. If we can see this, we can have a say at that time. But till now, I am skeptical about his policies, and I don't want where this would lead the world to. Because it is not my skepticism only, it is the skepticism of half of the Americans, of a big percentage of the United States citizens and intellectuals, and also world leaders, and also people in the cabinet, in his own cabinet maybe. If you say Kerry is still there, Kerry has different points of view. So in what way they would reconcile this, or in what way they will deal with it?
Or before taking oath, there were disputes between Donald Trump and the CIA top officials and directors. I mean, this was that's
and the
strange.
Media. And the media. He has confrontational stances with the media too.
I mean,
no, I would answer you. No, I would not answer
in closed
you.
doors.
Yes.
I mean, don't you think that this is also something new, something which we have not seen before, in addition to what happened yesterday with those demonstrations, to the extent that police interfered, 217 were arrested, police used tear gas. I mean, as I said, America entered a new era with all the complications around this era.
Maybe with the world too, the whole world.
Would you please elaborate, sir?
Yeah, actually, the whole world would get into a new era. Whether it will be, when it comes, for instance, American stance in the Middle East and the Russian stance in the Middle East. They used to be incongruent. But with Trump, I think they could be very congruent. They could be very compatible with each other. I have heard one of the colleagues use this word, I think he was Ma'mun Fandi. He said, it's not, maybe we may witness not a psycho speako, but a psycho Putin. I like his term. Yeah, maybe we can get into an era of psycho Putin, to use Fandi's term. So I think, yes, the whole world could witness a new era where conflicts either being resolved in a very nice and very smooth way, or we can see an era of conflict, exacerbation, and deterioration. And we wish, and we are supposed to put our input as countries and as peoples to get the whole policies in the right track, because it's always take and give. And he would be, in terms of practice, I would expect him to be dynamic. He would not be that static. He's a businessman, and the business mentality might have shown him to be very dynamic.
One of the world tycoons.
Yes, announcing bankruptcy and
built twice by Walid bin Talal.
He is in the dynamic area of changing mentality, depending on what's happening on the market moves. So I think this would be good if he deploys it in a very reasonable way in politics.
Right, but since you were talking about the idea or the project of Psycho Putin project, what happened lately at the last phase of tenure by President Obama before he leaves office with Russia?
Yeah.
Now the Russian reaction to a new president stepping into the Oval Office and taking over with that profile of Donald Trump. How do you expect Trump's policy is going to be with Russia, especially that he's going to leave the door open for a new page with Russia? And also, again, concerning the sanctions that were imposed over Russia by the former U.S. administration.
If you go back to Obama's discourse before he leaves, he went into a fit of expressing his dissatisfaction with the Russians. But again, he talked like from above. He said, and this is a very weak country with bad economy, with etc., etc., etc. Trump wants to get here, and he doesn't look or take the same stance. And he wants to be in good terms of Russia. But as a businessman, really, he knew that a businessman could have a good relation with a weak economy. But a strong economy like China, he's opposing it. And he felt like, yes, no problem with the Russians, but the problem was the Chinese. Okay, the mentality of the businessman is there. He is China is a competitor of the United States when it comes to economy now. So this is, again, reflects his economic mentality and the mentality of a businessman.
Then let me put what you have said in a question, and it's going to be my final question.
Sure.
Sir, Donald Trump, is he going to run America with the mentality of a businessman or an economist, far from politics, and he is going to be assisted by the politically minded people, or he should have both the political and economic vision?
No doubt that your background influence you no matter wherever you go, no matter what profession you are. When it comes to Reagan, Reagan was an actor.
Yeah.
And an actor is a perfectionist when it comes to communication. So he was called the great communicator. And that was his background,
and the
jumping into the
also
politics.
flourished at Reagan's time.
Of course, because Reagan had many good stuff around him. And Reagan,
it's always the entourage.
yes, it's of course, that's right, the good entourage,
A very important
not the bad
statement.
one. Right, and Reagan, I'm thrilled by many of his speeches because his speeches were prepared by very well informed people. Many times I heard him talking about Ibn Khaldun.
Yeah.
And he made references to so many other thinkers. So when it comes to political theory, and we teach political theory, you cannot separate yourself from great figures like those because they still have an impact, and their theories are being discussed and developed till now. So Reagan discourse was very well prepared in terms of who prepared. Yes, some very professional people backing him. I hope that Trump will have the same entourage. I hope. Because good policies of the United States definitely would impact policies all over the world. America is still a superpower, or one of the greatest power in the world, and their action could not be ignored, and they have an impact on us. Yes, their actions and their moves have an impact, and we should have an input in that impact so as we can get the world in a much more stable and much more peaceful track, inshallah.
Hopefully, inshallah.
Let's wait and see.
Let's wait and see.
Professor Dr. Hassan Wagih, our political analyst of this episode of our breakfast show. Thank you very much for being with us, sir. Thank you very much for your input.
Thank you for coming. And a quick short break, and we'll come back to you, so stay with us.